the first official episode of Sunday Dinner. Oh, y'all thought the first one? Y'all thought what we had in November, you thought that was the first one? No, baby, no. That was just a little pilot, okay? What we about to do right now today is the real deal. Thank you all at the dinner table so much for being here. Y'all, we have been laughing and having a good time. We're eating some good crown pork, I can never say that right. Crown pork roast, I promise. I barely had any alcohol at all. So crown pork roast, asparagus, and butternut mashed potatoes. And the, what
I got to tell them about the strawberry.
And the, with the strawberry sauce.
That's it.
Yeah. So, these are some things we talked about in the first pilot. If you haven't seen it, you need to go watch it. Okay? So in the first episode, we talked about race, love and relationships, injustices, so on and so forth. We discussed issues in the black community and how the media portrays the black community in a dim light. So that's what we talked about in the first episode. This episode of Sunday Dinner is about reclaiming our own narrative. The media tells a certain story about us, and we're here to tell people who we are and what we truly do and how we live. All right, so we're just your average people, and in our community, we're going to talk about our roles in our community and our society, and we're going to continue to talk about the issues in the black community. But we're going to highlight, especially with the pandemic, how we heal from those problems that we have discussed in the pilot. So here we go. Let's start it off with some introductions. Don't be scared to eat. We still eat Sunday dinner. Don't be scared. Don't look like So let's see. Who should we start off with? We'll start off with you, Mr. Derek.
All right. Name is Derek Favors. 35 years old, married, 2 kids. Co-founder and chief operations officer of Soul the City LLC, renovation company that specializes in first-time home buyers for the community. And we also have a community service aspect that we do as well. Like I said, it's holistic investment in the community.
All right. Hi, I'm Diondra Blocker. I'm 26 years old. I'm the assistant director of a child care and learning center. I'm a recent graduate from AU. Go Jay! So yeah, that's it.
Okay, we'll come over to you.
I'm Melvin Dukes, 36 years old. Just had a birthday, May 6th. I've been I'm a high school math teacher. I've been in education for a little bit over 10 years. One daughter, married, and you will see my wife in a second. And I am one half of our podcast, which is called After School Talk Podcast.
Okay, my name is Dr. Sharon Dukes. I am an assistant director of student life engagement at the university. I've been in education for a long time. I don't know how long. I am 34 years old. A husband, that guy, a daughter, and also one of the co-hosts of After School Talk podcast, as well as running my own little online business that's hectic, Nostalgia Clothing, which pays homage to all of the things I like growing up from HBCU life and black culture.
All right. Okay. I am your host today. I'm Ashley Blocker. I am also an educator. I'm a choral director at the Academy of Richmond County. I've been in education now for about 10 years. I also teach voice lessons, and I am a co-producer with Austin at SLifeCreative. So, now that we all know who we all are, don't get quiet now. We've been laughing and talking the whole time. Y'all acting like, oh, this is serious. No, we still gonna, cut up like we always do.
It's the sweet potato.
It's the sweet potato. And y'all, I think they're getting the itis over here. Okay.
I call that time out.
So, I hate to start it off heavily, but we're still basically in a pandemic.
Right.
Our world learned a new word. Before, people may have heard the word epidemic, but no one has ever heard the word pandemic. And so we were learning what it means to have a pandemic. So I want to know, how did the pandemic affect you? Okay, so we'll start with you.
Well, so I think I'm the only one here not originally from the Augusta area, from Newport News, Virginia. We're a military family. So I got here, October of 2019, really October, November time frame. So only 3 months from us getting here, that's when they shut the entire world down. And, when you're just transitioning, you're trying to, find a job, get to know people, everything like that. That's the worst time to be trapped in the house. Because, like I said, we 0 people in the area. And I had, of course, in the process of trying to look for employment and things like that. And that's when we were all switching to the Zoom interviews and the video interviews, things like that. And it got to the point where I was just tired of playing the game already, of just working for other folks and things like that. And also had been kind of kicking the can down the road on starting, really investing in my own business. So it was really at that point in time where I decided I'm locked into doing what I want to do, and I'm locked into doing it my way. Because part of that, when the barbershop shut down, that's when I started growing the hair out. And when you're doing the video interviews, I have some that I pop up. And as soon as my screen popped up, you can see them like, oh. So like I said, it became a sense of, under the worst circumstances, you get your best opportunity. So that's when I looked at it as, okay, well, let me go ahead and dive into myself, invest into myself, represent myself how I want myself to be represented, represent my company how I want my company to be represented. And what better time than now when you are they say necessity is the mother of all invention, right? So like when you have those circumstances, winners are going to win regardless. And it was crazy, having 2 kids and they were in daycare at the time and having to pull them out. And I spent a little bit too much time with them, as I think we all have. When we were trying to get things off the ground. But again, it really, I think, under the toughest circumstances, you find out when your back's against the wall. That's the real you. When all your comforts are taken away and everything like that. So that's what I looked at this. I know there was a lot of, of course, a lot of folks lost lives. A lot of families got, stretched to limits. But there's always opportunity in the worst circumstances. And that's what I did. That was my take on 2020. Every season's not the hardest. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to put our heads down and do the work. So 2020 was, in the pandemic, was working time for me.
Right. And we'll come over to you, Mr. Dukes.
Now, I want to say we didn't have a struggle or anything like that. At the time, I was working at Augusta Tech, one of our local tech colleges. And I was working with admissions, doing STEM work and all this kind of stuff, recruitment for the STEM program and stuff like that. And of course, all that came to a halt. No more recruitment events and no more going out, kind of build our the student population at Augusta Tech. So all that kind of came to a halt. But mine kind of got affected in the fact of I got an opportunity to go back to the classroom. Some of the teachers that at the school that I work at now, they decided, well, you know what? I've been with my kids this long, and I want to kind of have a change of scenery, do something different, work from home. Got different jobs or whatever. So it was a door being open for me to, like I say, go back to the classroom. And I definitely feel like now it was a better opportunity from where I came from in the past, and it was just great. For a moment there, everybody had a question mark about what was next for them. What are we gonna do next as far as working, making money, just living, surviving? Period. Just nobody knew what was gonna happen because everything completely shut down. But I'm just thankful for in my situation, I was just blessed with a better opportunity. Making more money, that's always good. When I saw that number, I was like, oh, you got me. I'm good. Yeah, I'll be there Monday morning. Let's go. And really and truthfully, that's how it happened. I got a call on a Friday and school was starting that Monday. So, everything kind of happened real fast right before that new school year started. But other than that, it was, like you say, spent a lot of time at home with family. Yeah. My wife is here, so I won't say anything about that. I go back to it. It was great. It was great.
Don't tear the house down for life.
Now, Melvin, I'm telling you, she's coming after you.
Right,
now, so,
right, absolutely.
I think I went from my hand on my hip to like, okay.
Right. So what did you find out while you went home?
But okay, so I'm like,
your turn.
I was going to use my favorite phrase to piggyback off
right.
But it was crazy. I feel like One, I loved quarantine. Quarantine was one of the best things that ever happened to me in life.
I thought I was the only one.
I literally put on Facebook the other day, like, when we gonna go back to that? Like, that we can just go inside and there's no time limit or you gotta be here, you gotta do this. It was just focus on you. Get your work done if you're working from home, but you can focus on you. And it really taught me that I lived a very extroverted life, but I am an introvert. Mm-hmm. So I was realizing I had more energy and more time for creative thoughts and things I wanted to do because my energy was spent in supporting and doing things for everybody else. It was just, there's nothing you can do. You can't go to somebody else's house. You don't have to go to the birthday party or to the event or go help a friend move. It was just you stay in your house. And I was like, yeah, I'm about to take this energy back to work when we go back. And I remember telling them, we need to recognize the people who have to spend a lot of energy to be that person in the room for everybody. Like, I get home and I'm drained and I'm having panic attacks. It's like, cause I just, what you need, what you gonna do? And I gotta do all these little
Are we
things.
sisters?
I know.
I'm sitting here like, wait a minute, how did you know?
Well, listen.
So now I'm gonna have to take the piggyback off.
Yes, that's it. That's exactly what I realized. Like, you put in a lot of energy when you gotta be out there in the world every day. So, I switched that up for this.
Yes.
Post pandemic. I don't know if we post or not, but
are we still in it? I think we're
in
still in the transition phase.
Right.
We're still in it.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right, Miss Ma'am.
So for me, I feel like after COVID or during, things really didn't change for me. Like working in childcare, we were never considered like essential workers, but we took care of the children of other essential workers, so we really had to stay open. Yeah, we really had to stay open, and I guess working with children, being able to have that close contact with them, like that was a bit of a change for me, just being able to like hug them and embrace them. That had to stop, and so it was weird, like being at work and not being able to, greet them good morning with a hug. You just had to wave and, pass them along. So that was really hard to get used to. But personally, I'm an introvert, so I don't go out really like that. So having to stay home because all the businesses are closed, I'm just like, this is my normal life. So it didn't really bother me. But just, I guess that being able to, like touch people and, that having contact with them, especially with like babies and stuff, it was hard because children, they love that, being able to be hugged and, when they're crying, you can wipe their tears and stuff like that. Just not having that one-to-one contact, that was hard to like break away from. But now I feel like if this is our new norm, like for me, I'm not really bothered by it. Only thing is like wearing masks. Like, I mean, you walking in the store, you ready to go in and get what you need. You're like, I done forgot my dog. Turn around to the you can tell when people do it. Cause like, they get out the car and it's like, oh.
That bouncing stride going to the door.
I understand. Right. Question: how many of you at this table are introverts? I am.
See, I got to do like one of these because I have my moments. Sometimes, like, yes, let me be to myself.
Right. And I think everybody is that way at times. Yeah.
But just to be a wholehearted introvert,
and see, I would always feel guilty because all of my friends, most of my friends, are really extroverted and like, this is really driving me crazy. I need to go. And I'm just like,
I need to go
relate. I realized I love painting. I get to, I like staying in my house. Not having to go in the store and see people. You want to bring my food to my door? Yes, please. That's one thing I'm keeping. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it had its ups and its downs, and it was very sad in the beginning. And it's funny. I was watching a show. I don't know if anybody's seen the show For Life, but it's on Hulu. If anybody hadn't seen it, it's a pretty good show about a man who was wrongfully convicted
Okay.
For a crime. You've seen it?
I ain't seen it. I know what you're talking
about. Yeah, it's based on a true story. And so there was an episode in like the second season or something, and it was talking. You could see everybody had this mask, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is this awful event that's going on? And it was the pandemic, something that we lived through, and it just seemed so scary. On a show, and I'm just like, that is the life that we've been living for the past year and a half. How long has it been?
A year and a half. At the end of 2019, somebody came and told you know what, man? Kobe gonna die, and then it's gonna all roll downhill from there. It's just gonna keep getting crazy and crazy, and I won't even tell you. With
that, I thought that was a joke. I said people really need to stop playing,
right?
And so I looked, and it hadn't made it to CNN, and you could tell it was leaked. And I said, this is fake. And then CNN came out. I said, oh my gosh.
Yes, and then it just kept getting crazy and crazy. You would have a hard time believing, like you said. So, that's just as everybody at the table has kind of touched on. It's kind of just the nature of human beings to adjust to whatever circumstance you have. It can become normal,
right?
Just like everybody here has worked in the field of either child care or education, and like we were talking, the wildest of situations you can become acclimated to, and like once you get away from it, if you were to go back and tell yourself like XYZ, you're like, man, that's crazy. And like as we sit on the completed end of 2020, you look back at everything that has transpired, politically. Folks burned the police station down, and like if someone were to sit you down at the end of 2019 and tell you like you won't even be surprised when these events take place because folks just got to the point where we fed up with everything.
It's like span of a year and a half.
So like
the storming of the Capitol, and it's kind of the kind of stuff you don't think about, like, or even imagine that something like that would happen.
And then on the back end, it's kind of just like. I see how that would happen.
Because you're going to tell then, it's like, we made it through. I saw it. Like you said, I saw it all happen. So, I believe it.
Right.
Now you do. Now you, but like you said, if you had told me a year and a half ago, all this about to happen.
2020, that's going to be my year.
Yeah, 2020, perfect vision.
That hashtag died. That's 2020 vision.
Oh yeah, you see everything.
But it's crazy because my mind always relates stuff back to Black culture. And when you were saying that as it was happening, it's becoming a new norm, and you kind of just move with it. It makes me think of the movie How to Be a Player with Bill Bellamy. And at the end, what they realized is that the player adapted to his environment. That's why he never got caught. Because that's what we really do in life. We train to just adapt. Yeah. But initially, it's just that shock of what I got to do. Right. We got to wear a mask. And then I fast forward. Everybody ain't got on a mask. That's what we got to do.
Now when you don't have a mask on, it's like,
what's wrong with you?
Right.
Yep.
I remember when that mask situation first jumped off, it was kind of like, y'all need to wear a mask. Then you realize, me too?
But I don't know if you got it. Speaking of vaccines, how many of y'all got them? Here's the thing. I will tell you. When this first started and they came out with a vaccine, I'm like, that was too quick. No.
Yep.
And my sister will tell you. Austin will tell you. I'm not getting that.
That was me.
I'm not, because back in the day, they were experimenting on black people. I'm not going to be anybody's guinea pig. No, I'm not doing that. Yeah. But, I thought about it, and Austin was like, I knew he was going to get it anyway. Eventually, I was going to anyway. But I wanted to see more research. I wanted to have more time. How did everybody else feel about it?
I've had the biggest blessing of all of my doctors are black. All of them. I mean, OBGYN, my regular physician, urologist, gastrologist.
We need to talk.
Oh yes, ma'am. I keep all black doctors. So when my doctor is like, I got it, I'm fine, you're gonna be fine. Okay, yes, ma'am. Because it's just like she's gonna make sure with her patients it's a different level of care and explaining things and not just pushing me around, which is what I felt happened when I didn't have a black doctor. So if I didn't have them, I probably would still be over here like, I'm not doing that. But I have a one-on-one relationship with these people, so that's why I'm about to. As soon as I got my shot, I text my doctor. I said, okay, I got the shot. She said, which one? I said, it's different ones. I ain't know different one. Which one did I get? Like, and then I was telling her I was about to go get a margarita after I said there's a margarita in the vaccine does not mix. So I'm about to go get a margarita. She's a girl. She fine.
How you doing?
You good. But
you gotta ask.
Yeah, I don't want to walk a dead zombie out here. I don't want to do that. So yeah, that was my thing. At least I had somebody I could talk to that's in the medical field that did it themselves. So.
Yeah. How did you feel?
I will say my confirmation came from her. Because I've never been one that liked going to doctors, like seeing doctors, talking to them, emailing them, texting them, none of that. I don't.
Are you a black man?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Was it your wife that made you go, or was that your
No, it was just hearing her conversation with her doctors. Her coming back saying, well, Dr. Surgeon said this, Dr. Surgeon said that. And, just doing my own research or talking to other friends and stuff like that, I became a little bit more comfortable with the thought of actually having it done or getting the vaccine. And then when my school district said, hey, we got it set up for it, anybody that wants to get it done can get it done, that's when I'm like, all right, well, the opportunity is here. Let me go ahead and do it. But initially, I was just like you. I don't want no parts of the vaccine. No part. You got it out, good for you. But I ain't taking my chances. I'm good.
Right.
And I don't like getting shots no way. So no, that's another reason why I don't need to get it. But then, like I say, things happen and conversations happen and the opportunity presented itself, and so I went and got it.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you?
So at first, I told myself, like when they first released the vaccine, I immediately thought about the Tuskegee Experiment, and I was just like, I'm not. First of all, I don't know what's in this vaccine, and I'm just like. But I was just like, I'm gonna let the first couple rounds of people get it, just to see how they react to it. Then I will make up my mind. And my brother, he's in pharmacy school right now, so he was allowed to get like the first. When they released it to the public, he was allowed to get it first. So I said, okay, I'm gonna wait and see how it reacts with him. I'm like, because I want to hear from another black person, like how they reacted to it. And he was like, I'm fine, like, go out and get it. And so by the time I got it, I had already gotten COVID, and I was just like, well, I've dealt with the worst. So I was like, what's the worst? I what's the worst that can happen? But
I already had that.
Yeah. So
okay, now Derek.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm ready for the hot seat.
I was like, okay, that's something I'm on when everybody get ready.
But what everybody else already said is we understand. So what is your reason?
So it's weird being kind of being a representative of and it's not an anti-vaxxer in the least bit.
Right.
I honestly to piggyback off my co-host, I kind of have here's a crazy reference point, an iPhone mentality with it. So like whenever the iPhone dropped and everybody was like rushed out to get the iPhone, like why rush to get the first edition when you know it's that's the one that's got the bugs in it that need to be worked out. So that
it did have bugs.
Right. So like that was already my first thing that like I said, let the first wave go through and like like
force me with you.
Right. And then like and seriously like everybody's already touched on with the whole distrust of both the medical field and the federal government that had a big hand in the whole push of it, and that's kind of how bungled that was at the time. Like they made a complete circus of the situation where whichever side of the fence you're on, you still have a distrust of the people who were involved in getting it done. And even when my mother has been super diligent about her social distancing and staying away, like she's been the queen of the quarantine, I ain't messing with it. In our families, a lot of folks have underlying issues that if you catch it, then now it's I've had friends who've lost parents to COVID and some close folks that they would be willing to sacrifice a few other folks.
Today.
Yeah, to get to the main body. And what I'm saying, if that makes you a conspiracy theorist or whatever, I just had a severe distrust of everybody involved with the situation. For those who back in, I got my mask, I wear my mask and so like I said, the social distancing cool. anything that helps people out and that keeps people protected, I'm all for. My level of trust is not that of being able to confidently invest in the way that this thing has just been bungled at every single step. I still have a level of distrust there that I'm not comfortable with, and it's something I hate the fact that I was amongst the early folks who've had the opportunity to get the vaccine through the VA and through us having quality health care through the military and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm not to the and like you said with the whole shot piece, being in the military, that's when I got over my fear of shots. Like they line you up like cattle call, and it's crazy because like if you're in the military, I've been injected with so much stuff. But and even like when we went to we deployed to Afghanistan and we had to take malaria pills, which I feel like those are probably birth control pills because I don't know how nobody got pregnant the whole time. The whole time we was over there, I ain't see any pregnancies, and I'm like, and every day they're like, hey, y'all make sure y'all take y'all malaria pills, right? Those ain't no malaria. So like, I promise, and I won't mention what you with Section 9, but we had they had flu shots for us, and like they kept losing records of who had flu shots. So like I've been injected with a whole heap of stuff by courtesy of the United States government, and so like it doesn't even make sense for me to be so apprehensive about. But again, like on this level, like I said, I'm still. If anybody out there who's watching, if you're on the fence and you feel confident enough to go get it, I'm not the one who's going to dissuade you. I will not pull out my internet research and say X, Y, and Z. I just say that based off my experience and my observation of how this thing went down, I still can't trust it. Especially the good folks at Johnson & Johnson. These fools, your expertise is baby powder. You done messed the baby powder. Right. So yeah, y'all should be able to touch nothing no more.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're sticking with current news and current events. The Derek Chauvin trial. What are your thoughts on that? Now that was some heavy stuff. He had to take some finish up the wine before that.
Yeah. Let me tell you what I think about it.
Yeah. I'm gonna say it was crazy because it took me back to Trayvon Martin, so I didn't watch any of the trial because I was on bed rest with my daughter when Trayvon Martin's trial happened, and I watched every single day. And I was in that thing going crazy, like I'm yelling. I'm a lawyer, and you should have called such on the stand where such like it was just too much. So I tried to block it out. I think in 2020 alone we had enough trauma, so it was just I don't want to watch that, right?
And that's exactly what it is.
It's just right, and we reliving it. And what happened was I was in a meeting, and we're in a Zoom meeting, and they called our associate VP out of the meeting, and the lady said, Dr. Bruce, we're going to have you go ahead and still present to us, but she just called out because they're about to do so I'm like, y'all done call her out of this meeting for this? Like, what's going on? So I finished my presentation. By the time I go back out the door, everybody is coming into my space. We turned on the TVs. Everybody's sitting there, and my office is next to the multicultural office. They are like hawks on them right now. Like because depending on how this case goes, this office may end up being the one that all the students come to when they're lost and confused or sad or angry or whatever it is. So it just got real tense all of a sudden, and I'm just like, Lord Jesus. What are the next couple of days at work about to be because of this? So that was my whole thing of when we work in education, now we have to be the what is it, like the safety net for whatever reaction is going to be. So I was like, I don't know, because if it was going to be a bad call, I don't know what I was. I'm not coming to work tomorrow. I need time myself. I can't help you because I got to figure out what I'm doing.
You have to deal with the trauma on your own. It was. I remember. And it's sad that we remember where we were when these things were happening, or when we find out. Y'all, I lost it on my way to work. I was teaching elementary school, and I just kept thinking to myself, I have a little brother. What if that was my brother? And it's not even just a male thing. I have a little sister. So I had to get myself together because I had to go in there and teach these kids. So I understand what you're saying. You had to deal with your own trauma before you could even go. And luckily, I was teaching kids that were too small to understand what was happening. I couldn't imagine teaching high school then. It's kind of like with George Floyd, but it happened when we were all at home.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to be there with my kids then, in high school. It's just been, so we'll come back over here to you.
So with the verdict, for one, when it came back so quickly, I was like, that's a conviction. Because like you to have the makeup that they had of the jurors, you know that you can, in order for them to either mistrial or find them not guilty, there would have been an extensive debate on that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, if everybody got on the same page that quick, I thought it was going to be the two lesser. I thought I was going to catch those two lesser charges, mm-hmm. and I thought that's what everybody kind of like. We can check the box on this one and that other one, you know what I mean? But when it came back that quick, I was like, he there's no way that quick that they would allow this city to burn again without somebody in that jury pool be like, hey, let's really, you know what I'm saying, make sure we can articulate.
Right.
So when it came back that quick, I knew that he was catching at least two of those, and to see all three, I was it was one of those good shots. Of like, oh wow, and like.
Look, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because this is, as we all were sitting around, first of all, I said at TV, we literally was around the monitor on the computer, like 10 people just, forget COVID, we just got to breathe on each other. Yeah. We kept going, it happened, it was fast, so da-da-da, but in the same breath, we would doubt it. And somebody said, the fact that we sit here,
exactly,
like having to be like, like, did you have that feeling of where it's like, I feel like it is, but it's America. At the same time, this can go left.
Yeah, exactly, exactly, and so that to piggyback. so with that, so that became my next focus. Like everybody kind of wanted to put the optimistic bow on it. Of what does this means that we've made progress in America. This means that, and there were news outlets, conservative news outlets, who said, well, this is an example that the justice system works if you just give it a chance to. And like, no. We need to be very deliberate about this. This isn't proof that the justice system works if you give it a chance to work. This is that it works when you force it to work. This is an example of collective strength. This is exactly what this is. This is a lesson in our empowerment. It's not an opportunity to pat you on the back for doing what you should have done. Right. Because it shouldn't have taken everything that it took in order for this to happen.
That needs to be a whole quote.
Right. Exactly. This is an example of what collective strength is. The fact that there was such fear of what would happen if the right thing was not done, that it forced folks to do the right thing. And again, to bounce back to my military experience, as a lower enlisted soldier, I get frustrated with try to be a bridge. Though as a lower enlisted soldier, I get frustrated with leadership a lot of times because I didn't come in at 17 years old not knowing anything. So at some point, one of the older officers pulled me to the side and said, "You're intelligent enough to understand that sometimes you have to force people to do their job. Do not base anything off of somebody's rank, somebody's title, somebody's position. Everybody is a human being with human biases and perspectives and their experiences that they're bringing to the table. Sometimes they may not be motivated to do what they need to do. It's on you, because it affects you directly, to force folks to do their job. And this is what that was. It was on us to force the system to do the system's job. And we successfully did that. That does not mean that the next time it happens, that it won't be. We're sitting on a Ronald Reagan situation where we're still, in the streets with signs and everything like that. It's like no. So obviously, like it's not the panacea has not happened where we're now in utopia. Exactly. We're not so like so. Don't let a narrative lull you to sleep to say that this is the example that we've changed and we've grown. This is the example that when you put the work in and you organize and effectively make a movement. If you have a clear objective and you're deliberate about your objective, it can be accomplished, but we need the collective strength to get it done.
What was your reaction?
Okay, so the school I work at now, or even the district I work in now, is predominantly white. If you find out where I work, then it is what it is. But my thing is,
I'm going through a list in my
but man, it's a high school. But my thing is, I was kind of like Sharon was saying, didn't know how I was going to be at the job once the verdict came out.
Right.
So I'm in the middle of a bunch of Trump supporters. I'm in the middle of Trump supporting students, teachers, all this kind of stuff. So I'm in one frame of mind. I'm like, I'm expecting the worst. If this verdict come out like this, I'm expecting the worst on both sides. Out of this group of people for that, out of this group of people for that. And then when the verdict actually came out, and I was like, oh boy, they about to shut some things down. But thankfully, it was not like that. And I actually realized, even though you have, and I'm a conservative, I'm gonna use that word. Even though there are some conservatives, or not all conservatives think the same. Not all of them have the same thought process. Not all of them, feel the same way about different events or different things. Because I had several students, come to me and say, I'm glad things worked out like this. I know it's not the I guess the trial, the sum of how things will be in the future and stuff like that. Still got a long way to go. These conversations were still being had, not just with me, with my students. And I teach 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. So these conversations were being had with my 9th grade students. And the fact that they are able to articulate, what's going on in the world, what's happening with this situation, what's going on at their school, put all these things together and come to an agreement on, well, we still got a long way to go. And like I said, these ain't my little brothers and sisters talking like this, but this is a totally different group of people talking like this. And it was a warm feeling. It made me feel a lot better to know that there were, my students, having these kind of conversations and being able to talk like this. But I ain't gonna lie, initially I was like, boy, we about to catch hell tomorrow. Right? It's about to be on and popping. But like I say, thankfully it was not like that at all.
And honestly, that's what it's going to take is people need to be able to have conversations. People need to be able to come from a place of love and not out of hatred.
Right.
How did you feel?
So initially, I was on Facebook watching the live. And I know how to feel. I felt like, like kind of like what you were saying, like either way it goes, like somebody's going to be mad. And I felt like it was going to be deja vu all over again, like when George was first murdered. But when they read the verdict, it really, to me, it allowed me to come to terms with my level of distrust for the justice system. Because he was found guilty on all accounts. I was like, okay, well, how much of their decision was based off of them really thinking that he's guilty, or did they find him guilty just to prevent like the riots and stuff from happening again? And I was just like, I didn't want to think about it too much because it made me feel uncomfortable, like just having to decide like, did people really feel like he was guilty of what he had done? But I said, right now we just gotta wait until he's sentenced, because that's when it's gonna get real. Because the judge can easily say, okay, well, you were found guilty, but you only have to serve 2 years, which they do that all the time. So I'm just like,
Let's press pause right there. We're gonna come back to that. You mentioned sentencing, so we're gonna break for a brief commercial break. We'll be right back.
What to look at?
Trey, baby, come downstairs for a minute. We got something for you. You got me the new PS5? Oh man. No, but we got you something much better than that. A book? What am I supposed to do with that? You said it was better than a PS5.
All right, now, Trey. Gratitude towards your mother.
Trey, didn't you tell us you wanted to be a doctor? So we figured we'd get you this book.
And, son, doctors haven't always looked like us. I mean, do you really think you could be a doctor without people like Patricia Bath, Alexander Augusta, Charles Drew, Rebecca Crumpler? Probably be impossible.
But it's not impossible. You can't know where you're going unless you know where you come from.
Black History, Our Mark on Healthcare. Written by Ranisha Coleman, illustrated by Zoha Bhatti. You can find this book on Amazon and wherever books are sold.
We left off with you. Yes.
I was done.
Yeah. She said, I don't want to. All right. Okay, so we were talking about the sentencing of Derek Chauvin and how we haven't gotten there. That is still to come. So before we had the verdict, just to be sure, in case everybody doesn't know, Derek Chauvin was found guilty of unintentional second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Do y'all think that was just? Do you think it was fair?
Oh, so I'm good with it.
I was about to say, in short, I'm
good with it.
In short, I'm good with it.
The next thing that they talked about was that, because he hasn't been sentenced yet, it was just the verdict. So they found 4, what's the word for it? You know what I'm talking about? Intent. Mm-hmm. There were 4 things that he did that showed his intent, right? So one of them, I can't remember, they only named 3 in what I watched. One of them was murdering George Floyd in the midst of a child. So that was one. And then there were 2 other things. So the judge could basically say, yes, he intended to do this, but if he says that the intent wasn't that serious, then that would mean that he could get a lesser charge or a lesser sentencing. So how do y'all feel about that?
Well, I think that kind of touches on what Diondra had left off on, as far as that's the real test. It's one thing to have it, identified by name. It's on the record. He's a convicted. I think those were felons. I think he's a convicted felon. But like I said, with the Amber Geiger situation, and it was just tears and heartbreak. And I'm so sorry that I need you to do these 4 years. I'm so sorry, so sorry. But we have to give you these 4, or 6, or whatever she called. And if that's the same situation, then it's almost a break even, where we gave you what we had to give you, but there was still the opportunity to maintain the status quo. And and of course, with our constitutional rights, you get the right to a fair trial, you get the right to defend yourself. So everything that he can throw at the wall to make stick, he has every right to do. And based off the relationships that a law enforcement officer would have with the courts, you can navigate the gray area. Like that's life. If you have the leverage to do so, take advantage of your leverage. You can't be mad at that. But I mean, ultimately, there's a lot of responsibility and a lot to be said about what the end outcome of the actual sentencing is, because that really speaks to the severity that the courts officially give the actions.
Absolutely. I was just thinking, you can't talk about the justice system being fair until you get to the sentencing. But like you said, you can throw everything out there that you have in your power, in your favor, and still get off. Like you just said, I give you 4 years because that's what we have to do. But what we really saying is, but if it was my choice, I wouldn't give you none of that. So it's like, yeah, you done found me guilty or found this person guilty on these charges, but what's going to be the punishment? What you going to do now? What's next? So going back to what you said, Diondra, what are we going to get once that sentencing come down? What we going to see then? So that's ultimately what we are still waiting on before we talk about any of this justice system is right and justice system this and that. Let me see what he's going to get first. Let's talk about that.
June 25th. June 25th. Now, we would be remiss if we didn't discuss what today signifies. Today makes the centennial anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre. Did y'all hear about that? Mm-hmm. I got a question. Did y'all learn about that in school?
No.
Anybody?
No.
Anybody?
No. Not at all.
To be honest, I know I heard about it some point in time. Not school.
Right.
And the The only recent connection was the show that came on HBO, Lovecraft Country. So that was I love Lovecraft Country. Jesus, I got HBO Max just for that. I ain't watched nothing else on there but that. But them using things from the past, and then leaving those what they call like Easter eggs in the show, where you gotta be like, wait, that was true, and then you gotta go back and find about it. That's how I even found out about it. Nobody, which they don't teach us stuff, and they currently
inaugural Augusta Black Restaurant Week takes place July 20th through 25th. This week celebrates African American owned restaurants and eateries and the role they play in socioeconomic progress in the South. Participating restaurants develop offers individually, whether a signature menu item, a discount, or an unexpected celeb photobomb. Like the cuisine, each restaurant experience is unique. So join us for the inaugural Augusta Black Restaurant Week, taking place July 20th through 25th, 2020.
We're not going to find out about it. Unless we research it ourselves, basically.
Right. Right. Yo, that was awful. So what do you all know about it? I only know what I've researched once I, really dug into it.
Yeah. Well, since I'm already conspiracy theory, and I just want to point out that this prop of the wine bottle being by my name. Y'all got me looking like the lunch shop this thing. Boy, I'm trying to say that this is set up.
We ain't gonna touch the second bottle.
So he out here drinking.
That was not my
I ain't the only one with secrets.
That was not my we can talk about serious stuff, but we gotta laugh.
Absolutely.
We gotta laugh.
Yeah, to kind of deviate and then come back. But there's a reason why the narrative is what it is as far as like education goes. And at some point I heard a quote that we don't learn American history, we learn American mythology. So the ultimate goal of when we learn American history is kind of to praise the noble intentions of these great men and the great things that they've built in a great system that's been built and things in place. And there are a lot of blemishes and horrific things that had to be done. I was one of the kids, like I get a textbook and I wouldn't read necessarily the lessons that we were doing. I'd read the actual textbook. And one of the things that was the craziest to me that I could not understand as a student, I was in like 6th grade or something like that, was the concept of manifest destiny. Like I read it and I went to the glossary and was reading. I'm like, what does that mean? And like, how does that make sense that like it was God's intent to wipe out the people who were here because He wants these people to be. And like that's in a history book that this is the way that God wants this to be. He wants these people to eliminate these people because Jesus was a great American. That's the weird thing of like, and the fact that it's crazy. Every Christmas that we tell the story of the refugee family that didn't have their paperwork but came across to have the baby born in the manger so he can come back. And it's like but we're super anti-immigration. Like the same people are. And it's crazy, there's a disconnect with actual history versus how it's presented in the storyline that goes along with it. So there's a lot of things missing from, if you're looking at our storyline specifically, like, and I'm making this I'm pretty sure this is the year, but there's something called the Compromise of 1877, and it relates to the presidential election of that year, and it ties into the Freedmen's Bank and everything like that, where the election was kind of similar to the 2016 situation where the popular vote versus the electoral vote was, there was some gray area. So the compromise was that we'll give you the presidency if you remove your troops from that are overseeing Reconstruction down south. So we were sold out in that sense that we were given opportunities in the Freedmen's Bank, and because you can't just release the slaves and then it goes crazy. So like there's a structure in place, but because we have the opportunity to negotiate these people as chips, we can do that, and it gets glossed over in history that there's a reason why there were a lot of black senators and members of Congress up until that point, and then after they removed the troops that were overseeing Reconstruction and allowing us to integrate into society, why that disappeared for the next half century. And we don't learn about that in school. And we don't learn about the Southern strategy and things like that of how blue states became red states, and how, and why, if you look at an electoral college map from that time frame, why it's the complete inverse. Like, why is that? Did all the bigots in 1968 just decided to stop being bigots and just change political parties? No, there's a reason behind all of that. Like I said, there's a reason why when if we're the emancipation hits and we get out and we're in a concentrated population, why, of course, you're going to have representatives that look like you, and then all of a sudden those people disappear. Why is that? There's a reason for that. If we were skilled in agriculture and things, and we built we had businesses based off that, and then sharecropping comes along, and now you're being exploited. Your skill sets are being exploited, and it becomes an informal form of slavery. There's a reason. There's a reason for all of this. So there's a reason why gentrification happens. There's a reason. All of these things are not just happenstance. Right. So to tie that back to the Tulsa Massacre piece, there's a reason why it happened. There's a reason why it's not taught, and there's in the ripple effect from that. It's intentional, and it's, again, that directly interferes with the mythology of America that we learn. So that's my take, my synopsis on why people sitting at this table learn about the Tulsa massacres in adulthood, and why you learn about redlining in adulthood, and why you learn about literacy tests and polling taxes and things like that in adulthood, as opposed to when you're 10 years old and they're teaching you that, no, this was a pretty great guy. He had some minor flaws. He thought that you were human livestock, but minor detail.
Over that.
And a lot of other things.
But I think my question is, and as adults, we can say we're not taught, or we don't learn about different things until we are adults and stuff like that. But maybe I'm being silver lining Steve even in this question. But if my high schoolers did learn about it, then what? If my middle schoolers did learn about it, what would happen? What kind of conversation would be had at home? What kind of conversation would be had in the classroom? What kind of fights might start? I mean, you know what school you depending on what school you at, who say what. Those are kind of things that I kind of wonder sometimes. Just what if you tried it, what would happen?
I agree with that to a certain extent, but I got something that you.
Well, I think because the curriculum is trash. Like, the overall curriculum for K through 12 is trash, right?
Not just in history.
Yeah, not just in history.
Yeah.
All subjects.
Yeah.
All subjects.
You graduated high school without knowing with FICO or FICO.
Yes, right. Hello, because we talked about it on the podcast, and we were just like, we didn't learn what we were supposed to learn. Like, we went through all these years at the magnet school where everybody's so smart and educated, and then we get to this point where, like, why do I not know how to do a credit score? Why do I not know how to write a check? Like, I know that from my parents. I didn't learn that from school per se, right? And then we had a whole economics class, and I'm like, what did we learn in economics class? Which, by the way, we learned in school alma mater in economics class.
Yeah.
Wow, like everybody learned the alma mater in economics class, and we were like, why did that happen? That's foolish, right? No, right? They go together.
That's the last question on the job interview.
Yeah, that's the last question.
Did you have music classes?
We did, but having electives at our school was far in between.
Which school did you?
A.R. Johnson. So, like, that's how we met, was in music class. But, like, really and truthfully, that was, like, it could be random of how you ended up in music. And then the music teacher was split between us and Laney. Okay. So she might have done 2 classes at our school, and then the rest of the day she was at Laney. So, which is a whole other thing, Richmond County and their lack of resources to actually have the manpower to handle the size county it is. So that's another point. But I realized in going to an HBCU that the black curriculum has to be taught in a way for empowerment and not for just knowledge.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so when you teach me
That's
like
the
about we did this thing, and truth be told, it didn't happen in the classroom. It actually happened through our student affairs department. If you wanted to run for Miss Payne or student government or anything like that, you had to go through a leadership training. In leadership training, we went through the talented 10th. We had to learn everything about Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. And the way they taught it to us to be leaders that in our community, okay, now it's like I'm taking this knowledge and applying it to a concept and making it practical.
Which is the whole point of learning something anyway.
Right.
To learn and then apply it.
Yes, it wasn't just glossed over like, oh, yeah, this is who he is and don't worry about it. So that's why I think, like, what you're saying is like, yeah, you can't, which, truth be told, that would be the problem in the school system is that you're going to have people teach it and gloss it. They're going to really just, because they told me to tell y'all about this whole thing, I'm going to tell you, but not really take it and say, like, how can I use this to empower the black students in my class with their own history?
Yeah, and so that's the exact thing I wanted to get in on. So the intent of education is kind of to regurgitate information. Like you retain it long enough to regurgitate it on a test, and then they you get the thumbs up and keep it moving. But like I said, the main intent is to say this is why it's important to use critical thinking, and this is why it's important to do research, and this is why it's important to own your skill set and be able to build your own, because there are forces out there that will attempt to undercut what you're doing, and you have to be a critical thinker in order to survive. It's like the first subject that we talked upon. You have to use your critical thinking skills in the face of adversity, or you're not going to make. It's like when you talk about home economics and like jobs and things like that. You don't get paid for what you do at a job. You get paid for what you know. Yes. You get paid for the problems that you solve. You get paid for the productivity that you are responsible for. Your knowledge, your skill set, your critical thinking skills. And that's not what's necessarily focused upon in school and education. It's more so, in 1492, check mark. Yep. And that never comes up. Like my senior year of high school, I had 2 classes left that I need to pass to graduate. One was United States government, and the other was English. And then knowing your government, that's important. Cool. English was 16th century literature, where we studied Shakespeare the entire year. And in my mind, I'm thinking, which is cool. No knock on Brother Shakespeare. No knock on the man. However, at no point in time have I ever had to discuss the use of iambic pentameter in order to get paid. But as a 17-year-old, I was responsible for paying taxes. I was responsible for understanding that when you get out here, this credit, when you turn 18, you have a credit score that you're going to be responsible for. What goes into a credit score? If you work 10 hours at your job where you're making $10 an hour, why is your check not $100? There's a reason for that. But like I said, I was blindsided. I got my first check when I started working. I'm like, yo,
you were gonna make that much money. I did the math.
I clocked in. I clocked in. Saw me clock in. You gotta pay the state. You gotta pay the and like even still, like I think I was in. I had a little tax situations I didn't file for a while, but like there was a shock that like, yo, you get money at the end of the like where's like you file tax and they give you free money back? Not necessarily, but like that's what you find out when you first start working, that like you get blindsided with so much, and all the important things you don't necessarily learn it because we're not taught to think critically. It's more so learn, soak it in, and be able to regurgitate it when we call for it.
Ooh, Lord have mercy.
It got deep.
Yeah.
Apparently off the wine. That's what they trying to say. I say,
wait a minute. I'm behind. Y'all glasses in. I ain't even finished mine.
One of them philosophical drunks. That's why. You ever think about, no, really.
Think about it. Oh my gosh. So to wrap up with the Tulsa Race Massacre, so of course that was the destruction of Black Wall Street. No white person was ever held accountable.
Yeah.
And like Melvin was saying earlier, That's not new. You know, this has been things that have, and this is the centennial, 100th anniversary, right? Mm-hmm. And then several dozen black men were found responsible for inciting the riot or anything like this.
Look what you made us do.
Right. Mm-hmm. You know, it was your fault, right?
Yep.
This has been 4 generations of tragedy and destruction from this one event. There are 3 survivors that are still alive today. One is 107 years old, another is 105 years old, and there's one that's 100 years old. At this point, what is, like you were saying, what is to be done? Mm-hmm. You know? And we keep running into all of these different events. This event after event after event after event. Traumatic experience after traumatic experience. I can't remember which one of you said it. It was one of the dudes that said, when is enough enough? And we don't hate anybody. We just want people to be held. If somebody hits you, you want somebody to be held accountable that they hit you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We want everybody to be held accountable for their actions. That's all. Mm-hmm. That's all we ask. It's not coming from a place of hate at all. I have never hated any person. You know? So when is enough enough? You know?
The piggyback off of
Piggyback girl.
I was on Facebook and I was reading articles about the 100th anniversary of the massacre, and I think people were saying like those families who are affected should get reparations. And I'm looking through the comments. Somebody said, are those people even still alive? Why do they need reparations? And see, me, especially on social media, I try not to take things to heart because I'm like, I don't know you. Mm-hmm. I don't even need to comment on your comment because, like I said, I don't know you. But I went in, I'm like, first of all, what y'all refuse to understand is that things that happened back then, even if it was 100 years ago, it trickles down through those generations. And it's like, those families that were affected, they burnt down their businesses, their homes. Like, people, and I think they said that the businesses and homes they burned down today is worth like $70 million. So I'm like,
it's a lot of money that they destroyed.
Yeah.
It was a very wealthy black area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they destroyed all of it.
Yeah.
They had what they thought was theirs, and they were trying to protect what, we're protecting what's ours. You see how much land there is in our country?
Mm-hmm. But it's crazy. Similar situation happened in Wilmington that people don't even know about.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And I was like, wait, so this is happening in multiple places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and people just...
And then I was watching a documentary about this. The people that were still alive, they don't talk about it. And that's intentional. Mm-hmm. The lady who's 107 years old today was talking to her grandchildren. And she said, Grandma, why didn't you tell us that you had to hide in a chicken coop in order to stay alive? And she said, because I wanted you. She would not tell her family what happened to her because she knew that whatever happened to everyone else and that everybody else who was buried in that mass grave, that she would have been one of them if she spoke on what happened to her.
And so we have to understand from the perspective that domestic terrorism has always been a very real thing and a recurring thing. Again, like that's the American history that it's not, it doesn't fit the mythology, but it's an absolute part of American history. And the objective of terrorism is to influence politics and decisions and actions. And it wasn't that we're just going to come through and like burn down your store because it makes it inconvenient for you. It's to have you understand your place. You stepped out of your place, and we have to put you back in your place. And when and I kind of lost the track of that, but that's the main piece. That there's always been an element within our culture where you have to decide: do you want to be right or do you want to live? And those are very real, and you know, and history is kind of a harsh judge of that when somebody kind of protects their neck as opposed to, you know, standing on, you know, principle and doing what's right. Mm-hmm. But like there's a honest fear of that with people of that generation, where even though we know they're in the wrong, the conversation becomes, well, you know how they are. You know how they are, and we know, even with like the Emmett Till situation, there are people like, well, you know, when we whistling at folks like that, you know what's going to happen to you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not that he was wrong, but you know how they are. Mm-hmm. So there's always been that debate of, do you stand knowing that the easiest way to kill a revolution is to what? Kill the revolutionary. Mm-hmm. So if you're the one speaking up and you're the one standing and talking bold and reckless, you're putting a target on your back, mm-hmm. and your family needs you here, mm-hmm. or does your people need you to be the martyr? So, you know, I don't think there's any right answer to that either. So you can't knock the generation that experienced that for not speaking on it, because they had a decision to make. And I chose to be here. I chose your existence. I chose us to be a family as opposed to, you know, me getting a hero's headline in the newspaper.
And for having that same mentality or thought for so long, it's like, yeah, even we in 2021, grandchild, I still can't talk about it. Yeah. I never know who's going to be right over there, you know, waiting on me to say something. So I'm still not going to talk about it even right now. I'm going to keep my mouth closed.
And even still with that, how it permeates is, so like, let's jump back to the Derek Chauvin situation. Everybody in that environment saw what was happening. Everybody in that environment had the exact same mentality of, what we need to do is just observe and report. Mm-hmm. It could have been 4 on 20, but we know that they got guns. They will use them. Yeah. You can be down there too. You can be next. So we can either, you know, stand up and do what's right and lose our lives too, or we can do the best we can and like just discourage this behavior. Yeah. So like, there's still a mentality now that, like, you know, are you willing to die for what you feel is right? Because like you get one chance to die for something. Mm-hmm. So like, as you sit here and watch this man lose his life, everybody in there had a decision to make. Do I go jump on this man and pull him off of him, or do I pull my phone out and just hope that this goes viral? Mm-hmm. So like that same mentality still permeates us, and like, that's no knock on those who choose either way. Because again, you know, like one of my biggest things, man, like, I'm not about to do anything that's going to compromise my ability to get home to my children at night. Mm-hmm. Truth be told, like that's my top priority is to be here for my family. So I can't knock anybody else that makes the same decision that, like, whatever comes, I will be here for my family. And I'm not, if I got the chance to die once for something, it'll be for them, not for nothing else.
So we're about to wrap up. Basically everything that everybody at this table has said is we are in the process, or we are every day surviving.
Oh, absolutely. Every
single day, we are surviving. We're not doing what we feel. Some of us are doing what we feel like we need to do to thrive. But whenever, like you said, whenever we get to a point where we would like to thrive and just be ourselves, something like this happens to remind us of what our place is. So at this point in time, we have to learn how to heal from the things that are going on, and we have to get past only surviving. So in the next episode, that's what we need to talk about. Thank you all so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed. This conversation's not over. We got to keep it going. Until next time.
Peace.